Hello friends, I am Professor Smita Jha from the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, and I am doing Health, Humanities and Disability. And under this caption, we are going to discuss today semiotic mediation of activity. Well, what is this semiotic mediation? So, in health humanities, semiotic mediation of activity is the process by which science and cultural tools, such as medical language, diagnostic technologies, and illness narratives, intervene to structure and transform how humans experience and act within the realm of health. Well, this framework, rooted in Vygotsky theory, posits that our relationship with the world is not direct but is mediated by the socially constructed meaning makers. Let us discuss the core theoretical components. First is mediated action. Human activity in healthcare is viewed as a triad consisting of subject, patient, or provider, a mediating artifact, signs, symbols, or tools, and an object, the health outcome or understanding. Second is internalization and externalization. Well, individuals internalize social signs like a medical diagnosis to form personal paradigms of their illness. They then externalize these through speech acts or behaviors they reshaped social reality. The sign as an instrument, which is the third component, and in this context, a symptom like chest pain is not just a biological event, but a sign that must be interpreted into a cultural meaning, that is, heart attack, to trigger a specific medical or social action. If we talk about applications in health humanities, we may go to the narrative and literature as the first component. So, semiotics provides a framework for analyzing how language in literature or personal stories shapes the understanding of disease. Narrative acts as a semiotic tool that allows patients to reconstruct their identity and think through their illness. Then medical interpretation, which is semiology. Traditionally, semiotics was synonymous with diagnostist, the reading of bodily sign. Modern health humanities expand this to include the clinical gaze, where subjective symptoms are transformed into objective medical science through local, cultural, and institutional filter. Third is, under this category, public health and sense making. During health crises like the COVID-19 pandemic, semiotic mediation is used to study how individuals make sense of new threats. For instance, panic-related calls for action can function as semiotic barriers that prevent rational consideration by overwhelming the individual with emotional arousal. Fourth is practical implementation in research. Researchers often use focus groups as a site for semiotic mediation. In these settings, speech acts like informative, evaluative, active are analyzed to reveal participants' personal paradigms. Fifth is socio-cognitive conflict, and these are introduced to stimulate the grasp of consciousness, helping individuals reframe their understanding of health practices such as condom use or caring for elderly. In the context of health humanities and social sciences, medical action in the semiotic mediation of activity refers to the purposeful steps taken by both clinicians and patients that are guided, transformed, and regulated by science rather than just biological fact. Medical action is not a direct reaction to a symptom. It is a mediated decision making process where sensation must first be interpreted into sign, that is semiosis, before they can lead to professional or domestic action. The structure of medical action. Now, what is this? So, this is a kind of framework, and in this framework, medical action follows a triadic model, that is, subject, artifact, and object. Now, what is subject? This is the healthcare provider or patient. Then, mediating artifact. These are the signs used to understand the condition. These include medical terminology, diagnostic data, MRI, blood test, or personal narratives of pain. Third is object, that is action. This refers to the resulting medical intervention, such as prescribing a drug, performing surgery, or a patient's decision to seek care, that is addressability. Coming to stages of semiotic mediation leading to action, I would like to say that medical action is the final link in a semiotic chain that moves from an internal sensation to a social activity. In health humanities and social sciences, the biological occurrence is the object that a medical sign refers to. The transition from a biological event to medical action follows these stages. Now, what are these stages? The first is fact, which is biological occurrence. A physical state or event, such as a drop in blood sugar, a viral replication, or a nerve firing at this stage, it has no meaning. It is simply a material reality. Second is sensation, that is the organism's first psychological detection of that fact, the feeling of lightheadedness or a localized throb. Third is perception, the mental recognition that something is wrong. The brain organizes these sensations into recognizable pattern, nothing that something is happening in a specific part of the body. Fourth is representation, interpreting the perception as a specific sign. The individual uses cultural tools like language, experience, or medical knowledge to name the occurrence, that is, this is hunger or this is a migraine. Fourth is expression. This involves communicating the sign to others, groaning or describing symptoms to a doctor. Individuals employ various semiotic alliances as provided by their specific language to convey the biological occurrence, that is, experience. Six is action, the resulting behavior such as eating or taking medication, which is now a mediated response to the original biological fact. The decision is made based on the preceding signs and expressions, that is going to the ER or prescribing medication. Coming to clinical mediation and empathy, which is very important aspect of semiotic understanding. In a professional setting, medical action is a collaborative semiotic process, and the first is interpretative action. What is this interpretative action? The physician's clinical gaze transforms a patient's subjective symptoms into objective medical signs. Second is communication as action, which is using a semiotic-based curriculum in medical training, has been shown to improve empathy by helping students recognize empathetic opportunities, signs of patient distress that require a communicative response rather than just a technical one. Now, addressability as the first medical action. So, a critical medical action analyzed in social sciences is addressability, the domestic decision-making process of whether to stay home or visit a doctor. This action is mediated by normative science like mental representations of what normal health looks like. When a person's current state deviates from these normative signs, it triggers a decision-making process, often modeled as an analytic hierarchy process to choose the best course of action. And in the semiotic mediation framework, a biological occurrence, often referred to as a fact or referent, is the raw physical event within the body that exists before it is interpreted as a sign. It is the purely physiological or biochemical trigger that serves as the foundation for the entire meaning-making process in health and medicine. So, what are the key characteristics of biological occurrence in health humanities? The first is the independent reality. In Peircean semiotics, the biological occurrence is the object. It exists whether or not it is correctly diagnosed, but it only becomes medically real to the subject once it is mediated by a sign. Second, biosemiotic perspective, which is about forming a biosemiotic view even at the cellular level. Biological occurrences, functions like signs, for example, a molecule binding to a receptor is a biological occurrence that tells the cell to change its behavior. Third is the diagnostic gap. Medical errors often occur here. The biological occurrence, the actual disease, might not match the sign, the symptom the patient reports, or test result the doctor sees. If we talk of biosemiotic, well, biosemiotics, that is from the Greek word bios for life and semiotikos for observant of science, is the interdisciplinary study of sign processes, semiosis in and between living system. Unlike traditional biology, which often reduces life to chemical and physical reactions, biosemiotics views life as inherently communicative and interpretative from the molecular level to entire ecosystems. Coming to the core tenets of biosemiotic, the first is life is semiosis. The fundamental claim is that life and sign processes are coextensive. If a system is alive, it is engaging in the interpretation of signs. The second one is the cell as a semiotic system. Biosemiotics treats biological processes such as cell interpreting DNA to synthesize proteins as real act of coding and decoding rather than just mechanical movements. Third is unwelt self-world. Proposed by Zekov von Usikel, this is the subjective perceptual world unique to each species. A tick, for instance, has a different unworld than a human defined by a specific biological sign like heat or butyric acid. It is equipped to sense. Coming to the key branches, semiotic. So, biosemiotic is a global field divided into several layers based on the complexity of the organism. The first is endosemiotics. Now, what is endosemiotics? It is sign mediated communication within a single body, such as the interplay between the nervous, endocrine, and immune system. Second is phytosemiotics. Sign process in the plants, some functions that plants perform that utilize this simple semiosis include cellular recognition, plant perception, intercellular communication, and plant signal transduction. Third is zoosemiotics, communicating and meaning making in non human animals. This is the study of the use of signs among animals, more precisely, the study of semiosis among animals, that is, the study of how something comes to function as a sign to some animal. It is the study of animal forms of knowing. Fourth is anthroposemiotics, the study of human specific sign use, including language and abstract culture, viewed as a specialized branch of the broader biological science system. Now, why it matters in health and humanities? First is health semiotics. It moves beyond medical semiotics, interpreting symptoms, to a broader health semiotic that includes lifestyle, well being, and how a patient's subjective experience affects their biological health. Overcoming dualism is the second tenet. By showing that meaning exists in the biological body, biosemiotics help bridge the gap between the hard sciences, that is biology, and the soft humanities, philosophy, linguistics. Third is semiotics. This branch explores the ethical responsibility humans have as the only species capable of reflecting on the entire global semiosphere, the web of all living signs. Now, endosemiotics is the study of sign mediated communication within a single body, specifically at the molecular, cellular, and tissue levels. While traditional semiotic focuses on human language and culture, endosemiotics investigates the internal language that keeps an organism alive. The core principles of endosemiotics in health are the body as dialogue. It views the human body not as a machine, but as a massive communication network where the nervous, endocrine, and immune system constantly talk to one another using chemical sign, that is, hormone, neurotransmitters, and cytokines. Sign mediated regulation, that is, biological functions like a heartbeat or an immune response, are seen as acts of interpretation. For example, as immune cell doesn't just bump into a virus, it reads the protein marker on the virus as a sign of danger and decides on a specific action. Third one is the semiotic self, which is health is defined as the semiotic coherence or the stability of this internal dialogue. Disease occurs when this communication breaks down, often called semiotic entropy, leading to misunderstandings like autoimmune disorders, where the body reads itself as a threat. If we talk of applications in health, humanities, and social sciences, the first come biopsychosocial integration. Now, what is this biopsychosocial integration? Endosemiotics provides the missing link between the mind and the body. It explains how a social sign, like a stressful email, is translated by the brain into internal endosemiotic signal, that is cortisol, that affect the physical health of organs. Psychoneuroimmunology, this field heavily utilizes endosemiotic concepts to study how psychological states meanings directly communicate with the immune system. Third is placebo and symbolic healing. It explains how symbolic signs such as a doctor reassurance or the act of taking a pill can trigger actual internal endosemiotic responses, effectively speaking the body's internal language to promote healing. Placebo and symbolic healing are processes where meaning, rather than a physical or chemical agent, triggers a real biological response in the body. In the framework of semiotic mediation, these phenomena demonstrate how the internal language of the body, endosemiotics, can be spoken to by external cultural symbols. Coming to the sign as a bioactive agent. Well, in symbolic healing, a doctor's white coat, the sterile smell of a clinic, or an authoritative diagnosis are not just decorations, they are semiotic tools. There are several elements of symbolic healing, and these includes the first is the ritual. The act of consultation is a ritual that signals healing is beginning. The patient believes that them approaching the medical authority signifies the beginning of their healing process. The signifier. A sugar pill, placebo, acts as a signifier for medicine, having seen tablets and capsules as medicines that cure illnesses. The fake pill being prescribed by the doctor make the patient believe that them taking the pill will help in healing them. The pill itself therefore become the signifier. Third is response. Because the brain interprets these signs as precursors to recovery, it triggers the release of internal endosemiotic signals, such as endorphins, natural painkiller, or dopamine, which produce actual physiological changes. Coming to the symbolic healing in health humanities views healing as a collaborative narrative. Illness often creates a narrative wreck where a patient's life story feels broken, Symbolic healing works by providing a new story, a diagnosis, or treatment plan that integrates the suffering into a meaningful framework. This is called restoring the narrative. The semiotic complex. Well, under this caption, we can say that anthropologists like Claude Lévi-Strauss argued that healing occurs when a healer provides a language for unexpressed physical pain. Once the pain is named and placed in a symbolic system, the body can begin to regulate it more effectively. Placebo as semiotic mediation. The placebo effect is the ultimate evidence of mediated activity. The different elements of placebo, as explained briefly earlier, include subject. The patient in pain, an individual suffering from an illness, becomes the medical subject. Artifact, the sign, the fake treatment, or the doctor's reassurance. Third, action/outcome. The brain reads the artifact as relief, leading the nervous system to dampen pain signals. Nocebo, the dark side of symbolic power. The same mechanism can work in reverse. If a patient interprets a diagnosis as a death sentence or views a treatment with extreme fear, the symbolic meaning of danger can trigger stress hormones, cortisol, that worsen physical symptoms. This is known as nocebo effect. The nocebo effect is the evil twin of the placebo, where negative expectations or the symbolic meaning of danger lead to measurable worsening of symptoms. In the framework of health humanities, it represents a failure of semiotic mediation, where a sign like a doctor's word or a new report triggers a biological decline. Coming to the mechanism of nocebo effect, I would say that words plays as toxin. In nocebo, the artifact used for mediation carries a negative cultural charge. This cultural charge conditioned in the patient makes them adversely affected. Second is the power of language. When a clinician uses loaded language such as this will feel like a burning bee sting instead of we are numbing the area, the brain interprets the words as a direct threat. Third is physiological response. This interpretation is not just in the mind. The brain translates the symbolic threat into endosemiotic signals, specifically releasing cholecystokinin, in short CCK, which facilitates pain transmission, and cortisol, which spikes stress. Social and mass nocebo, and in this category, in social sciences, the nocebo effect is studied as a collective phenomenon. So, mass psychogenic illness. When a community interprets a specific environment sign, like a strange smell or a new 5G tower, as toxic, individuals can develop identical real symptoms despite no physical pathogen. Media mediation. So, health humanities researchers study how sensationalist media coverage of side effects can actually cause those side effects in the public by providing the script for the body to follow. Then comes the ethical challenge in healthcare. So, the nocebo effect creates a catch-22 for medical action. Informed consent. So, ethics require doctors to disclose every side effect, but the act of naming a symptom acts as a semiotic seed. By reading the list of side effects, the patient may unintentionally write those symptoms into their own bodily experience. Coming to communication as clinical action, to counter this, practitioners are trained in positive framing, ensuring that the semiotic tools they provide to patient empower healing rather than inducing fear. This is all for this lecture. In the Next one, we shall discuss the ethical aspects of medical humanities, taking a look at semioethics in detail. Till then, thank you. Let us meet in the next lecture.